Obesan, it is good morning to you in New York, and it is good evening here in Mumbai, India.
Hi, Dr. Mohan. Nice talking to you.
I like you calling me Dr. Mohan.
Yes, it means role model in Japanese, right?
Mohan means a role model in Japanese, right?
Yes, Mohan. Yes.
My sensei Masaki might told me that once upon a time. I
Role model.
I hope I live up to his expectations.
You have to.
In my standard work, I have to introduce you. So
yes, sir.
Obesan, you are on the 30th episode of Dr. M's vodcast, Mohan for you. And you're going to talk about introduction to structured training of Toyota production system. I couldn't have got a better person than you, Obesan. When I heard your recording in Gerard's Virtual Lean Summit, then I realized that you should be the one who should come and speak to us about the real structured thinking of TPS. Because you were born and brought up in Neoga, the birthplace of Toyota. I couldn't have got a better person. You know the culture, you know everything from there, and your father was there. All the introduction you can do yourself, sir. And what are we going to talk about is we talk about introduction to structure, and you're on Dr. M's vodka. So I'm handing it over to you.
Yes, sir.
Take it away. Take it away.
Yes. So let me. So am I on screen?
Sure you are.
Yes. So Dr. Mohan, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Just like you said, I talked about using my framework to understand culture and a lot of different aspects of TPS in different occasions. And Dr. Mohan contacted me, and I really appreciate this opportunity. And I want to sort of re-summarize what I learned and share with everybody. Just like my background, I was born in Nagoya, Japan. That is the bed town of Toyota. Toyota is located like the suburb of the city. My father worked for Toyota, and because of that, I lived in South Africa and Kentucky. Both of that because of Toyota has a factory. And about 20 years ago, I started working as a TPS consultant. Not 12 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm not that young. I'm very old. How I introduced to this TPS consulting was that my father, his name is Hajime Oba. He was the first president of Toyota Supplier Support Center, which was established in 1992 in United States. This organization started by Toyota because at that time there was a lot of trade conflict between United States and Japan, which is completely different story now. But his responsibility was to coach not just the Toyota suppliers, but all kinds of business. I remember he was going to like furniture factories. He was going to hospitals. He went to a lot of food or any industry. He was requested, then he will go and help introduce Toyota production system. And because that work looked so exciting to me, I asked him if I can join his company. And since that time, he did not give me any lecture training. I was on the Gemba all the time, and we spent so many time together on the Gemba. And the lucky thing for me is like, I talk the same language, and he's always home when I come back, so we can follow up on some of the philosophical topics together using the language that, it's comfortable for him to explain. And I got really a lot of insight. And as I get more insight, we try to summarize this philosophy and thinking. And that's when I came to this framework of summarizing the concept and his thinking is when he goes to the Gemba, he's not looking for some words. He's not looking for some tools. He's not looking at some numbers. He's looking at the specific structure that exists behind these words or concept, philosophies or numbers. And he's capturing the Gemba into points, lines, and areas and body. And this kind of structure exists in man, machine, material, method, management, or anything. And when I see the structure, he start improving because it becomes very obvious. That's one thing. And I start understanding his lessons in this structured way. This helped me sort of predict what he's going to say. He might be making a comment on certain lines, but then when he's talking about the line, he expects something else to happen inside the points, areas, body, and I can sort of predict what he will say. And that's when I think he came back to me to say, you improved and you got something. And I explained this framework and he really loved it. He told me to summarize it. Unfortunately, I was a lazy man, so I could not finish the entire summary before he passed away. But 3 months before his passing, he gave me a book called Point, Line, and Area, which was written by a Russian artist. And he was trying to analyze paintings in a scientific way. And the book analyzed the point lines. And yes, it was applied to arts, painting. So it wasn't that relevant to copy immediately, but still, right, instead of approaching the art of TPS or art of management and keep it sort of fuzzy, by breaking down into the points and lines and areas and body, I can become a little bit more scientific about the way we understand things. And I'm not saying we should not use any numbers or stuff. Once we define these points and lines, we can, that can be converted into numbers, right? What is one waste or one problem? Yeah, we need to understand the points and line behind the meaning. Otherwise, people will be saying something different than what you might think the problem is.
This is the way of approaching and understanding what is happening in the Gamba. Start with the line, point, lines.
Points and lines, and So, and this is sort of like a visual summary of it. But when I say area, usually we summarize into a standardized work format. And then by having a standardized work, from there we implement. A lot of people jump to systems, but I think they always implement a mechanism which has a very high level of control and system where you have a degree of freedom, and then there's a structure behind it. Structure includes formal and informal structures, and that helps develop a better culture. That's how I understood, and this is something I want to talk more about, is this a very important cultural aspect, respect for people. I hear this word everywhere now, but the meaning, or at least what I learned from my dad, was a little bit different. That's why I try to, I summarized his thinking into the framework of points, line, area, and body.
And thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that, because respect for people, what we understand is, hello, how are you?
Yeah, and be nice and be friendly, which I'm not saying that's wrong, but when I go to the Gemba, he always has something technical thing that makes me think about. For example, I just gonna focus on the eye activities, and what does respect for people means on eye is that let the people focus on the work.
That is the eye of the operator, right? Eye of the operator.
Eye of the operator, yes. And that was the first thing I learned, is like when I go to the shop floor and I started doing time studies and stuff, I was standing in the way of the operator and I was talking to the operator and he pulled me back to say, you have to let them focus. if I really need to talk to the operator, first of all, I should wait until the end of the entire standardized work. Don't cut the operator's work in the middle. That will increase the risk of quality or skipping the process. You know, all kind of negative things could happen by doing that. And ideally, I should not talk to the operator, but I should get the permission from the team leader to talk, because you know, if I talk to the operator might lose that one takt time, depending on how fast the takt time is. But most likely, you will lose that time. So, and if the team, should get the permission from the team leader. If the team leader thinks that it is important for me to talk to the operator, then the team leader can jump in and help the work. In the meantime, I can talk to the operator offline without sacrificing the output quality or any of the other important KPIs. In the virtual lean conference, I talked about, you know, this. I went to a factory once, and I saw a huge turbulence, and you know, the HR was distributing checks, and that was causing a huge disruption in the line. And you know, that kind of activity is never allowed, because we always have to respect the focus of the people on the work. And if we are going to interrupt, we need to stop at the end of the standardized work. That is the only time that we are allowed to end. Otherwise, we were creating a huge turbulence and the problem.
That is the respect that you're showing to the operator, that he is absolutely focused.
Yes. So do not.
Yes.
Yes. So at the beginning, I might introduce myself to say I will be doing a time study, but then I should step away. I should find a location where I can observe well, but I do not distract that person that working. So that, yeah, to be honest, at the beginning, I struggled to learn where to observe, because I could not find a spot where I could, you know, observe and be, you know, away from his or her attention or focus. But that's something, the first thing we will learn is to how to observe without distracting and creating an environment where they can focus. And I think this, and the negative side of the point is obviously the distractions and blind spots, right? And I think this is important concept, is like, for example, when the operator needs to work on the product, we should not ask the operator to work in the blind spot. And, you know, this kind of design is not allowed. It should not be allowed. Unfortunately, there are a lot of cases that working in a blind spot, but that's one of the first things that, you know, from the design stage, the engineering and the design people have to respect is, how can I work without creating a blind spot? And this also, what I learned from my father was like applies to management, right? Visual management. I think a lot of people use this word, but what that means is that there should not be a blind spot where the management cannot actually see the activity going. So what I learned is, like, for example, materials. I should not stack up the materials too high so that the manager cannot see what's happening inside the line. This kind of material stacking should not be allowed, because manager might be walking by the line, he or she should be able to see inside. And, you know, if there's a problem, operators can communicate. Why you ship sell, right? It's because the management can stand in the middle of the U, and that manager can see everybody's activity, how they are doing from one spot.
I like this what you're saying about the blind spot for the operators and the managers. Blind spot, as I understand you're saying, is something that is not seen by the operator. So that you're saying should be built up in the design stage so that the operator can see it and can be focused. And for the management, it is that it should be so visual that, just by getting into the Gamba, he should be able to see everything, and there should not be anything hidden from his view. Am I right in understanding that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and they design the area so that it's very visible to the management. that is the meaning of visual management. I mean, there's other aspect of it, but related visual management related to people, this is what I learned about the point. Then I learned about the line. And one of the things is the eye movement, right? The operator is looking around to do his or her work is not good. Ideally, I should focus on the product. And as I move along, I should have all the information in front of the operator so that that operator don't need to search for the information or search the material, search the tools. No, we should not do that. The other aspect of the line that I always I'm trying to think about is where is the information and where is the information is used. These 2 points should be
Close as possible.
Yeah, as close as possible. As soon as we rely on memory, unfortunately, our human brain is not designed to be, how can I say, memorative. Because, operators are producing 500 units or 600 units or whatever amount of units. At some point in time, there will be a mixture of informations.
Yeah, there'll be mental fatigue. There'll be mental fatigue.
Right. And this applies to not just the operator level. It doesn't matter how high the education is, it should be very short. And one of the things I learned about, for example, the management side, they introduced so-called the hourly count board or hourly board, production analyze board. But the idea of that is that when the Andon is pulled, the team leader, group leader will jump in to help. Once you finish the helping part, you should go straight to the board and register what exactly happened and what was the problem and what exactly they do to help. And then they start the problem solving. And
I like this. So the minute there is a problem and the Andon, the operator looks for help, the supervisor comes and helps out, and then he documents it, saying that this is what happened. So it is written down, it is documented. It is not left in the memory of anybody. It is there, documented.
Yes, and that's very, I think it's very different environment that I've been to. Is like they ask for problem solving at the end of the day or after, they review the yesterday's performance on the production analyze board or the OEE activity. Then they will look at the Pareto chart to say, okay, supervisor, what is this problem? And it's already like happened the day before, and they need to talk based on memory. And in an environment where you have machine downtime, they will say, oh, this is because of machine issue, when there was maybe a labor issue or material issue or some other issues that happened. My boss, my father, used to call this kind of activity yesterday's newspaper activity. Right? Yeah. So why are we talking about the yesterday's news when we have real live activity going on? We should not focus on the yesterday's newspaper. We should focus on what's happening today. And unless there is a mechanism to register this downtime on every time it happens, the data that we collect could be corrupted. Right? We cannot just look at the Pareto chart and say, okay, this is the biggest issue when the registration of the problem is inaccurate. The entire management team, not just the management, but the staff and everybody might be working on the wrong thing when there is something, it depends on, right? The registration is somewhat like an opinion of those who registered. And that's why I think the Toyota guys are saying that, first of all, the registration person have to be the team leader of the frontline manager, not the operators, and they are the one that got trained. So they need to understand the situation correctly. They don't, I think they trained so that they focus on, how can I say, their problem, not focus on blaming others. A lot of places we go to is every registration of the problem is something because, oh, the supplier saying there's something bad or the operator made a mistake, and they blame on something else that, the registered person don't have to take any actions. But in many cases, there are things, to some degree, I would say too much, but they always talk about something that they can do that they did not do it properly.
Professor, just out of curiosity, in this registration, what do they write? They write that at this time, this problem happened, and
Yes.
this is what I saw, and this is the root cause, and how they can prevent it. They write all that, or just they how?
Maybe the root cause analysis might be too much.
What
At least
happened?
when, where, what happened, and if it's a defect, keep that defect next to it, or if it's a mechanical downtime, let's write down, what part of the machine was broken, and then root cause analysis will happen afterwards.
So it is
And
what happened, how they correct. Okay, it is just
yeah,
capturing what happened. Okay.
yes, and so the higher level of management might visit the production analysis board on the, I think what I learned is like hourly basis, and they will come to say, okay, this problem happened. I like the way, it registered here, but where's the root cause analysis? And they will have a different, paper or something that they are working on.
Okay.
Yeah. That requires a little bit more detail than the production analysis board on the board. So yeah, that will be done on separate. Yeah, so try to avoid any use of memory. One of the things my father told me was that don't ask the people to memorize standardized work. Let the material, let the machine. So the location of the materials, the tools, the machine should guide the people to follow the standardized work automatically. And that the people should be focusing on quality and, ahead or behind, just in time. So what specific product they should be producing. So those are the things that people should be looking at, not, okay, what do I need to do next? What is my next task? What is my next step to follow the standardized work? That should come automatically because every material and the tools and machine is in sequence of the operator. Therefore, you don't have to go back. The operator don't have to go back and forth. They don't have to rely on memory. They focus on the work in front of them. And then if something did not go the way it should go, they should say, okay, there's a quality issue. I need help.
That is the respect for people.
Yeah, that's the respect for people. They don't have to memorize too many things. They just focus on their work in front of them, and then they follow the path. And that's the respect of people for the area is you need to have a good standardized work. Standardized work needs to define exactly the process, sequence of the work, where should be the web and the takt time. It needs to be repeatable. At the end of the day, the only thing the operator needs to do is continue to repeat the work. If there is a reason they cannot repeat, they should immediately contact the team leaders and group leaders or whatever to get for help. Everything they need to do is inside the work, so they don't need to go outside the area to look for materials. They don't need to go outside to look for some kind of tools are missing. There's no need to do any kind of activity. They should be able to live in the area when the work is going on. And it's very important that they understand if they are ahead or behind. So such good standardized work condition is always given to the operators, and that is a way they say respecting the people. Yes. Nobody is doing guess. And then I connect this to the body, right? So on the area, we have a standardized work. As soon as I cannot follow, they should be able to pull the Andon to say, okay, the boss, the team leader can come and help. Obviously, the leader should be able to see what's going on and come in, but also it's easy to help. It's also the help is assigned, right? A lot of places that we go to, my dad used to call this Christmas tree Andon, right? One Andon might have 5 or 6 different colors.
Yeah, different types of colored lights on the Andon, yeah?
Right, and they will say, oh, in this light, the quality person have to come, and then this one, my maintenance people have to come, the logistic people have to come, blah, 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 blah. And the lights is flashing and nobody's responding. And that's, yeah, my dad said that looks like a Christmas tree. I mean, it doesn't mean anything to it looked nice, but it doesn't mean anything. But Christmas tree has a better meaning. So maybe his explanation was wrong, but it looks fancy, but it doesn't mean anything. Andon line should be simple. I need help. Then there should be a color for yellow light, and then there's a red light, stop. Most of the cases, they don't stop until it comes to a fixed position, because if I stop in the middle, I might interrupt somebody else's work, and you cause a huge turbulence. But you stop in one position, fixed position, stopping. That way, everybody can follow the standardized work, except for the station, what problem happened, and the team leader is responsible to respond to the needs of the help. That person is assigned, usually 4 to 6 operator has one team leader, and there's no question about who else should respond. Immediate response is the team leader, and they will decide, if they cannot solve the issue, the group leader will jump in. This is also assigned, like 4 or 5 team leader has one group leader, and the group leader would decide, okay, this is complicated issue. I need quality, or I need maintenance, and they will get the help required. If they pull the help, they must respond immediately.
Sorry, just for my understanding, so they escalate the problem. The operator can't do it, the team leader does it. If the team leader can't do it, the group leader does it. So it escalates depending on the complexity of the problem. Am I right?
Complexity and time, I think. The operator calls for help if they cannot finish the standardized work, and team leader have to respond before they reach the takt time. By that time, when they reach the takt time, the team leader have a decision to make, is to stop the line, or they will say, okay, I'm helping right now, I can solve this issue, so I will keep the line moving. And if it stops, then the group leader have to respond immediately. And then I forgot how many minutes, but if the stopping time start to get long, that's when it's less than, I would say 10 minutes. I think it's like 5 minutes or less. The senior management will respond. So it's very fast that the escalation happens. And the important thing is there's no dotted line, right? Like the Christmas tree example, right? They only calling the team leader or the group leader. That's all they calling. And if they will decide who needs to come, and it becomes very clear who needs to respond within what time frame.
Dotted lines means what, Obe-san?
In today's organization chart, there's a lot of organizations have a dotted line, dotted responsibility to report something. So in the case of Christmas tree, right, the Andon line is connected to quality, maintenance. There's so many dotted lines.
So it's a straight
undefined.
Line. It's a straight line.
Yeah.
The team leader, the group leader. Yeah, that okay. I understand that. Yes.
Yeah, the lines that Andon is a help, and that line is clearly defined. If one operator pulls the Andon and that specific team leader did not respond, somehow the other team leader responded, that's also not acceptable, because there is an assigned person that's supposed to help. That person cannot help. We need to understand why. Maybe there is a 2 problem happens simultaneously, and other team leader came to help, but that's still not acceptable situation. We have too many problems in one team. That's also a big problem. We need to understand why, and the appropriate functionality will come and help the activities immediately.
So this Christmas tree, I like that. The Christmas tree creates dotted lines, right? So people are confused who is going to come, who is not going to come.
Right. And when they should come, right? Because some of the cases it's connected, for example, quality, and quality is not working the same shift model as the operations going on. Then when they respond is when the quality wants to respond. That's not a good body that respects people. People is calling for help, it must come immediately, and it's highly documented or defined, so that there's no ambiguous decision making here.
So the team leader decides whether the quality person should come or not, right? With a straight line.
I think the team leader or the group leader. I think it's a little bit higher position that required. Yeah. because I think they need a little bit more experience to decide if this isn't required or not.
But it's not complicated by the Christmas tree.
Yeah, my dad used to have a lot of crazy examples of to describe some of the current practices. Another important thing is the ideas and comments about the line. This is not wasted. I'm sorry, about the standardized work. So long time ago, I had this experience of having former Toyota operator working as an operator in my line. And I remember that on day one, when she came, she asked for the standardized work. We gave her the standardized work and the training. And by the end of the day, it was a very simple process. So she was doing really good standardized work.
Mm.
From day two, she starts saying, okay, this rack is too high. It's not easy to reach. The tool is not in the sequence of what the standardized work says. The table, something is uncomfortable. She made this kind of comment, and I jumped in. I jumped in to fix the racks. I don't know how many racks I made on that line, but yeah, I almost every day I was fixing the rack, the table, the tools, and everything, so that I meet her expectations. I remember it was like day 4 or 5. The other operators came to me and asked the question, "Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to say, hey, because she's not making any solution. She's just saying, oh, this is difficult, complicated, or, and I'm saying, thank you. I appreciate that. That's, for me, giving a hint. And, I'm 6'2" or 187 centimeters, and the people working is 165, 70. So there's a gap between the height issues. And as soon as you feel something is uncomfortable, just let me know. That's my trigger to start my Kaizen.
So, Obe-san, when the operators start working, they start working on the standard work. Then when they're working on the standard work, whatever problems that they have, they are permitted to tell that to you or the line leader, whatever it is. That is respect people. To what is the problem that the operators is facing. But before that, they have to work according to standard work, right?
Yes. And the shocking part of the story was that this great operator that I have from Toyota was asked to work in the traditional area, because traditional area was having some issues. Our line was a model line. It was still under testing phase. So the management thought that we can steal some operators and put them in the traditional environment. I remember after day 3 or 4, when she was transferred to this line, she came back crying. And she was crying, saying that nobody respects me as a human being. That was her comment. And, she did exactly the same thing that she did when she came to the line. She asked for the standardized work. There was none. There was just rough guidance on, you need to do this. After that, you figure out how to do it. She did figure out how to do it because she's very smart, by the way. And then, she started making comments like, oh, this is too high. This is difficult. Can you fix it? And the supervisor basically said to her, shut up. Yeah. And when that happened, she just started crying because, that's disrespect to human beings. And when she was crying, I learned myself what does respect for human means. It's not something fancy, but I really need to understand what they are struggling. And it's not just my observation, and also it's not formal, right? The operator might be just making few words like, oh, this is difficult. That's fine. I should somehow try to understand what that means, try to make a change, ask if this improved or not. At the end of the day, they are making, hundreds of products and repeating the same movement 100 times. So even if it's a slight angle of difficulty, you repeat that for several hundred times, unfortunately, your body will feel the pain. And, we need to understand that and, provide the proper solution to the problem. So my dad used to summarize this respect of people in following way, right? Our life is limited. We all gonna die. That means we should not waste our time or anybody's time. On the other hand, this humanity is unlimited, right? Our creativity, our ideas, our thinking can continue. And we always need to respect that and also utilize that so that it continues on. And everybody, starting from the lowest level of the organization, they have these creativities and ideas. Let's make sure that we respect this. And it's a very nice sentences, but I always add to this, his comment is that he has some kind of the structure or this, I don't want to use the word technical, but how to accomplish this. He has a specific point, line, area, and body to accomplish this to philosophy that he has stated. Any slight movement in the body, or there's a clear definition to that. And I was able to experience that on the shop floor. And that's something that I look for is like, it's not a vague, fuzzy statement, but yeah, small thing that happening on the shop floor, and the decision that I make at the shop floor have to be aligned to this respect for people thinking. Another important aspect of respecting for people, and it's part of the humanity, is the development, the training of the people, right? And this is another topic that I also like to summarize into this point, line, area, and body, because, and don't get me wrong, I am also guilty of this, is like we do this TPS training and we have like long list of Japanese words, and then we have the 7 types of weight, 5S, and we have this acronym, and you're trying to make people memorize all these things, especially those Japanese words, right? I'm very sorry to say this, but for some foreigners, it is complicated to understand those words. Just like I struggle to understand your word, right? And I struggle to understand any English or Spanish or Russian or whatever word that we encounter. I struggle to use it. So why am I pushing that uncomfortableness to the people? It's not about memorization that we already talked about, right? Training. So one of the things I learned from is from the activity I learned is every day we should have some, first of all, let the people recognize that there's a need to learn, right? There should be a light bulb coming up to say, hey, wait, this guy's saying something that I didn't think about. Can I understand more? One example, the operator that I was talking about, the former Toyota operator, when that operator came to work in our model cell, she had a question, is that, why are you guys using the U-shaped cell? Because she used to work on the conveyor line, so she never worked in the U-shaped line. So what is this U-shape? And she started asking questions. So that was her trigger to understand U-shape. So we explained the U-shaped cell, not that one of the lean guys just gave her this Vic Monden's book and told her to read it, which is not a good way to give information, but she did. She did read the book. It took her like in a week, and she started asking questions according to the book, which I was amazingly impressed, right? Because a lot of people don't read, a thick book. But because she had the curiosity of, okay, what does U-shape mean? She didn't think about that before. Now she has a live question in front of her, and she was willing to take any kind of information that people can give. So, let's create this environment where people wants to learn. And another important thing is let's just focus on one point at a time when they are learning, right? Very often I make a presentation of a TPS trying to cover so many different topics. And, I've done those kind of lectures and people are paying somewhat attention, but the most important thing is when they go back to their own game, but what was the takeaway? And, they might be using some Japanese phrases, but bottom line, nothing changed. And that because learning was not real. We need to change that mentality, say, okay, what do you So, when we coach, instead of trying to list 100 different things, what's most critical right now? What's the most critical needs on the shop floor? What point that I can advice that I can give him or her that the learning is related to the needs that on the shop floor, so that there's a sense of eagerness to learn about this concept.
Yeah, I like your example, what you said, that there is a permission for the person to learn and to ask questions, and it is the responsibility of the supervisor coach to explain whatever the query is. So then she becomes comfortable, or he or she becomes comfortable doing the job because she understands why she's doing it.
Yes,
right?
yes. And don't try to give them 100 things to learn, right? Every day they can focus on one or two things, not many. It's right, and that's the part of this daily continuous activity. Is even if I focus on one or two things on one day, in a year, I'm working 250 days or something, right? If I really learn 1 point every day, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning amazing amount of things. So instead of trying to push too many things, focus on one thing and make sure you understand, you get the experience of that. And that's where I start thinking in lines, right? First of all, what's the relation between the coach and the student? Usually it's, like I said, it should be a daily relationship. So it shouldn't be, ideally not temporary. The more senior you are, you're unlikely to get that much interactions, but ideally on daily basis, the coach and the student relationship can have a direct communication to each other on what they learned or what are they wants to learn, and advices that you can give. And then, how long I can try and error on this concept. And it's very important, when is the coach is coming back to follow up on some of the topics. Yeah, and it shouldn't be always the coach is always, talking too much. It should learn by doing or learn by trying. So that there should be some kind of free time for the student to try things. And yeah, I think the important one is the pull, not push. Instead of let the people recognize that there's a need to learn. And then, I always say is that I don't know what I don't know. So until I know that, I don't know, I cannot learn. So let the people recognize that there's a need to learn. So instead of doing that by push, try to create these questions that sort of guide the people. Say, okay, I don't know something. My coach is trying to coach me something. Or my coach has something that he can coach. So I should ask, or maybe I should think on my own to understand what is he trying to, what does he see that I don't see? And again, the framework that I'm using, the point and line area, is exactly a guide for me to understand, what is my coach, my dad is trying to, or what does he see that I don't see, that I should see, so that I can learn from him. And again, that's something that an environment that we can create, and that's what I think the good coaches do. Yeah, and then that kind of line should be sort of designed into a standardized work of, you're creating a PDCA cycle. Okay, we're gonna learn on this topic today. You're gonna have time to do some Kaizens, and then the coach will come back to check on at some frequencies. I'm not gonna say any time to this. It could be different, right? Because you might say, I'm gonna do this experimentation at around 10 o'clock. Then the coach should come and see the experimentation, and then at the end of the experimentation, the coach should ask, okay, what's your finding? Did it go the way you thought it would go? Why? Yes or no? If no, why? Did you see the reason why your hypothesis failed? And give you some advices that they will work on, and the coach's responsibility to say, okay, let's try again. Let's make a quick fix and try this experimentation in 2 hours. I will come back in 2 hours to do, another observation to you.
So it's all hands-on work, right? You have to keep doing hands-on work.
Hands-on, and it's not like how can I say? I've been to some factory where say, oh, I'm training this guy, yeah, and he's learning by doing, and the coach abandoned the student for a whole day. The guy only comes maybe at the beginning of the morning, chit chat, and come back at the end of the day, look at the numbers, and you didn't hit the target, and walked away. Sorry, that's not coaching at all, right? You need to understand, and there is a critical moment in, okay, if I'm the operators or the student is doing some kind of experimentation, that's a critical moment to be together so that you can understand what was the hypothesis, how did they implement the hypothesis, and then where is the deviations that they did not see or pre-plan, and provide the right guidance and solutions to see those opportunities. Yeah, so this kind of activity it never means that it's how can I say, the operators and team leaders and the coaches are sort of free, and well, I heard some crazy story before, but they can relax in the office and let the thing go. It's very busy for the coaches because the coach have to be very flexible, not missing the moment of truth, so that you can provide the right advice at the right time, where the student feel the need to learn. If you miss that moment, right? Yeah. If we do not see those deviations from the hypothesis together, and if the student didn't capture it, yeah, you miss the golden opportunity. So
Again, showing respect to the students, right?
Yeah. At the same time, I don't want to babysit the student, right? We should not babysit him, because then the student will not think at all. They will rely on you to give every solutions to the problem, and that's also not good coaching. That's why I need to keep some distance and give the ownership to the student side, but somehow balance that, work. There's a story from China. There's the monkeys running away from the Buddha. And, the monkey thought that they run away so far away. And when the monkey turned around, monkey found out that he's still flying on the hands of Buddha. I think I don't know if this came from India or China, but maybe it's not a good example, but that's how the Buddha is my coach. And, I'm a monkey, or I'm a monkey of my dad all the time. And, I feel like I'm doing all kind of free and crazy movement, but I'm looking around. Oh, I recognize that the Buddha had the hand in front of me, around me,
That's the protection, that you're permitted to move around, you're permitted to fail, but there is the coach,
that's looking you from the big picture.
The Buddha is always there, available for you at the right time, whenever you
at the right timing. Yeah. So I'm drowned, but I'm not risking my life.
Yeah.
I'm struggling, but I feel safe. And that's the part of the body organization that we need to design carefully, right? Training activity is not like mass production activities. I think it requires careful design of the organization, the body, to have a good balance of students and coaches, and how can I balance between the daily work and the workshop? I know that in LinkedIn there's a lot of discussion about daily learning and workshops, and I think both are equally useful. No, I shouldn't say equally, but we should try to balance these two activities, because sometimes the daily learning, you might be pulled to too many daily things that you cannot focus on your learning, or you're suffering with that approach. Then it might be a good idea to take it offline and get the fresh eyes, and that will help you learn better. I think workshop is a very great tool for the senior management to sort of trigger more learning in organizations. Like if they feel like something is not challenged well, or if they are struggling with some kind of performance area, they can trigger to say, hey, let's do workshop. I'm going to focus in this area. These are the team members that you need to attend and create a good learning opportunities. One of the important thing I learned is about introducing multifunctional corporations or learnings together, right? That's also important part of the body, right? I might work on the quality issue, but then if I struggle, the boss can say, okay, quality, you need to work together and improve the situation. And in this case, the quality person that coming to help me need to dedicate the time. It cannot be like, oh, I'm doing my daily quality whatever activities, and then I'm going to join this guy when I have a free time. No, first of all, we need to focus on the game but together, and then we exchange some ideas and start thinking. One of the things I learned about multifunction activity, cross-functional activity and cross-functional learning is that the function side cannot push I've seen many situations where the maintenance come to help the operator work on the machine issues, but they gave you the thick technical book and walk it away. No, that's not. I mean, you can read the book, but that's not right. Okay, based on that book of that mechanic issues. Okay, what are the critical points? What are the critical things that we need to do that we are not doing right? And it should be summarized in a way that the operators or anybody that learning can take it away and apply to their standardized work. It cannot, and some of these functional people misunderstand that as long as they give quantity of information, they're doing a good training. But it's not. We need that's not the way that I learned. Like for example, my dad's best friend in Toyota is a quality guy, a very good expert in quality. So I got some opportunities to work directly with him and go to the shop floor and understand how to solve some of the issues. He wrote a book about quality, and he didn't tell me about that. I found it out later, but because he never gave me a lot of things to work on. He will go to the shop floor together and he will ask me what are my hypotheses, and he will share me his hypothesis. So then I will say, okay, I didn't think about that point. Let me focus on that, and I will focus on that, make observation, make some tests, and then after some time, I will report to him on the game. But this is my finding based on your hypothesis or my hypothesis. This worked. Obviously, his one worked. I learned something, right? But he did not give me list of 7 types of what the QC, the new QC tools, and the dictionary of the quality problem solving activity. No, he was giving me 1-point advice for me to think. And he came all the way from Japan to help me in North America, but still at that particular shop floor, he was giving me 1-point or 2-point advices that I should focus on, and that was what I focused on, and I was able to solve the issue. And then later I found out that he wrote the book, so I wrote the book and started asking questions to him directly on that issue. But the advices that I got at the practical level was very few points, but it was critical. I did not think about it, and that gave me a better understanding of the situation. So that's something I think it's an important task of this multifunction corporation is they need to summarize about their technology or the philosophy or concept or whatever into simple points and line on the show floor. That way, I can include it into my standardized work. Standardized work has this diamond shape for quality, right? And that is the critical point on the standardized work to make sure that we can build in quality into the process. They're not going to go through a long philosophical story about building quality or jidoka or that kind of thing. They will come to the shop floor to say, hey, this is the critical process point in the process that you must respect. It could be temperature, it could be pressure, it could be a fit of this material or the components onto a fixture. It can be anything, but this check must happen so that they can build the quality into the process inside the standardized work. And that's the challenge. Sometimes I might make a mistake, right? As a quality function, I said I need to focus on 3 things. It might turn out that I need to focus on 1 more thing, but that's also fine. I'm not going to say fine, but it cannot be like 100 different, you give them the list of 100 things. So, and it turned out that, you cannot follow any of them. Which is happening a lot of situations, right? The maintenance might have, you have to do autonomous maintenance on 100 different things. None of them is done. And then you start blaming the people, but then no, we have to say, stop it. Because if I look at those different activities, it's going to take more time than what we are allowed to do. It's impossible to do. Then we should not give this kind of irresponsible information to the people. We should summarize it, we should shrink it, and understand what's really critical for the operator to do in autonomous maintenance on daily basis or hourly basis.
That's again respect for people's.
Again, yes, don't give them something impossible to digest. Don't give something too many things that they cannot perform. Summarize it and, give them few points. Okay, quality is important. Yes, totally agree. Follow these 3 things. I can follow that 3 things. Agreed. Then we cannot push. We have to mutually agree that this is something important for quality, and therefore I will respect on every cycle.
They should understand why it is important. And as you're trying to tell me that the lesser the significant number of points, the better it is for them to understand, not to give the entire list.
Yes. Right. And, I'm not trying to create a doctor of quality on the shop floor level, right? We need that, but, we need few experts. But they need to convert these, sophisticated informations and ideas into a summarized point on the shop floor where we can show, follow every cycle. And in the other cases, for example, some of those lists include, the operator have to be wearing the proper PPE, the safety clothes or uniform so that, you don't contaminate the product and stuff like that. Those kind of things will come off the list to say the production side will say, hey, that's our responsibility. I'm not going to state that that's a basic. It's so basic, not just for quality, but for safety, for all the reason we have to wear a uniform. That's the rule. We need to respect that. And we're going to take that. The operating production side will take that. And, quality people, you don't have to put that on the list and repeat the same thing because it's silly, right? It's so basic that we're going to take it, but we're struggling on some other things, so please help. And that kind of mutual respect is something, create the respect for people environment, and don't overwhelm each other, overload each other, overkill each other. Keep it simple.
This overkill, the word overkill, I like. Yes.
Yeah, and it basically the ways of processing, right? Yeah, you have too many things on each functional topic, and everything comes down to the shop floor, and the people need to figure out. Most likely thing that will happen is ignore it. Pretend like I'm following these quality standards, pretend like I'm doing all the maintenance, and pretending I'm following these logistic rules and human resource rules. Forget about it. Yeah, and they will say, they only check the numbers, so who cares? As long as the output there, they don't care. Simplify it. Simplify it in a way that everybody can follow the standardized work. Therefore, we build the quality.
Yes, Obe-san, since you're talking, because these days in the organization where you're working, all of us are working, it's multi-language. Okay? They have lot of people. There may be people from Philippines, there may be people from India, there may be people.
Yeah.
So when you are training them, it has, I mean, they should understand it more or less in their language. May not be totally, but at least they will be able to understand, right? I don't know how far am I from the.
I think so. So I'm very bad at languages, so I do not understand the local language in many cases, but I try to translate. I ask for the translator to translate into the words. And it's also tricky. Sometimes the meaning is different, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Like, just to get one example, tuck time. I think we are using tuck time the wrong way. Because in Germany, where it came from, tuck time means cycle time. And I think the Japanese people misunderstood that, especially the Toyota people. My dad, yeah, this is personal, but my mother is a music teacher. So my dad asked her, what does takt mean? Because takt came from music and it came from, I think, German music. And and my dad asked him, does takt means pace in the German music? And she said, no, it's not, it's different, it's something else. She could not explain, unfortunately. She's not a good teacher in explaining, but no, she said, it's definitely not pace. Pace is something else. It's like the speed of the music at their own rate. So it's very close to cycle time. So we misunderstood the word takt time, but we're still using that word. And I'm quite sure that is causing some kind of confusion in Germany or the German-speaking countries about, pace versus cycle time. That is what we are trying to compare, right? There should be a pace to produce according to the total available time and how many quantity we want to produce. That's the pace that we should be producing to meet the customer demand. But takt time is not necessarily a good word for it. And we Japanese people misunderstood that, and that causing a lot of confusions. So yeah, obviously we should use a local language to understand, but I'm also careful, always go to the shop floor to understand if they understood the meaning of the word correctly or not, right? That's the only place I can confirm it. And that's why I need to go to the Gemba. I need to go and understand which specific point that they thought that, how they understood my word, so that I can understand the misunderstanding, the gap between those two words. And yeah, I remember, I forgot which country, but we struggled to translate the word productivity. And it took me a couple of years to understand that we have a gap between understanding, but it took me a couple of years. But then they were always chasing for output, not productivity, right? They were productivity over machine productivity. As long as they don't care how much resource we use, as long as output go up, they say it's productive. And I'm like, no, that's not the real meaning of productivity. The volume should be controlled by the market. And if we use less resources, we are more productive. And it took me a couple years to understand there was a gap. I would say a year. And then once I understood, I tried to understand, I explained it. And yeah, we always have to be careful about the meaning of the word. And the only place we can confirm is shop floor. That's it. That's the only place. And that's what we always have to do. So this thinking in point line area, and the body is my summary of what I learned from my father regarding Toyota production system. I sometimes call his thinking sort of like a management engineering. Management is not something, I don't know how to explain, but it's not just about numbers and words and, that what we learn in MBAs and stuff. He somehow kept this engineering mentality to connect the points, understand the points, connect them into lines, convert into an area, which is usually a good standardized work. Then he designed a mechanisms of, for example, how to record downtime. There's absolutely no question asked. mechanism, activity, or registration of the problems, and then they will talk about the systems, right? How to calculate safety stock. A lot of people will ask that question, but no. He will go through all these steps to say, okay, finally, you might need some safety stocks, but with a mechanism of safety. Is everybody doing the TPM? Is everybody making sure that they follow quality, and those kind of mechanisms exist? And then he designed the system. Another way is I call it structuralism. That's the modern philosophical terminology that came up, that thinking a lot of aspects such as culture in a structural way. And he is always thinking about culture and management and philosophy in a structural way. And that's why I use this framework of point, line, area, and body, because I think it's very helpful for me to understand. And also my dad passed away, but I can sort of predict if he was still here, this is how he would think about it. So, and my final summary is, I know I talked a lot, but if you are to, really want to practice this point, line, area, and body, just repeat that 4 words when you go to the shop floor. And that's what I do. I don't try to memorize every point and line. I just go to the line, okay, what's the critical point? And it could be any topic depending on what you want to focus on. If it's quality or if it's flow, I just start saying, okay, what's the critical point that I need to understand? What's the critical line that I need to understand? So I always go to the shop floor whispering inside my head, point, line, area, body, point, area, body, and sort of try to understand the situation by that. And then I understand which point the value add starts.
Obe-san, you are a very good teacher. Now, I will tell you what I learned, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'll tell you what I learned.
Yeah.
Start with the point, critical line, critical area, and the body. When you come to body, you have a mechanism which is structured, then you have system, which is slightly, that's step by step. First mechanism structured, then system slightly loose, giving a little bit of freedom, and then you come to the structure, right?
Yeah.
You're a good student and you're a good teacher.
Thank you.
Thanks. You're a good teacher, Obe-san.
No, I'm still learning to coach. So yeah, thanks for the advices.
And thank you very much that you showed us what respect for people is, right from the point, line, and body for training. I love this. And thank you very much. Okay. And you're coming back to my show for many other things. So please be with me. And you're a good coach. So you only told me that when I require you, you should be available, right? So
yes.
Thanks a lot, Professor. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for asking questions, because I think your light bulb went on when you heard the presentation in virtual lean conference, and I was very honored to talk with you, and thank you for this opportunity. It helped me summarize some of the things too. So yeah.
Thank you very much. This is what I really wanted to know, what respect for people, and to get it from a person who has lived in yoga, born and brought up, and you would be talking this on your dining table with your father and mother, a line, a point. Line,
at least with my dad, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Point, line, area, body. See, I know it by heart. Point, line, area, body, mechanism, system, structure. Right?
Yeah.
You're a good coach. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for respecting me.
Yes. So hope to talk to you soon.
Sure.
All right. Bye.
You can shut your slide share, and so that we can say see you again. Obe-san, namaste.
Namaste. Yes. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Yeah, but you say so fast, so arigatou gozaimasu, right?
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Namaste. Yeah.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay. Thank you very much, and let's stop recording.